Hey guys, what's going on? This is Seth, and I wanted to show you this little calculator I put together for you that I hope will help add some clarity if you have no idea how much you should be offering on a piece of vacant land. And by the way, you don't have to use this. I just think it's kind of a helpful tool in helping you narrow down an ideal offer price. And also, not just that, depending on what the numbers of the deal end up being, this calculator will show you very clearly what your total investment will be, what your net profit will be, and what your return on investment will be. And if you don't like how the numbers are turning out, all you got to do is adjust these numbers to your heart's content until these numbers do look the way you want them to. So, for example, I'm just going to take a real life scenario here. There's a property I recently bought that I think the full market value of it is probably $30,000. So I'm going to go ahead and put that number right up here at the top. I'm going to click tab on my keyboard and I'll move down here to the next question. This next question might look a little jumbled up and confusing at first glance, so I just want to explain what's going on here. The way this calculator works behind the scenes, and this is what you're not really seeing on the front end, is I've got this pretty complex spreadsheet that I use to put this together. And just to summarize really quickly what's happening. So whenever I'm pursuing a vacant land deal, I've found that the ones that are like really cheap, usually the sellers on those kinds of properties are willing to take a really low price as a percentage base of what it's actually worth. So for example, if I was going after a really tiny rinky-dink lot that would only sell for, I don't know, maybe $4,000, $4,500, somewhere in that range, for a property that cheap, I'm not going to be offering in like the 10 to 30% range because the net profit that I would make from that kind of deal is already really small, and to even justify my time and involvement in the deal, my offer is going to have to be really low. So in cases like that, I'd be willing to go even lower, to even 5% if I had to, and probably not much higher than like 10%. As you can see in this case, I set the max at 9%. And I'll also just say there's nothing really magic about these numbers I picked here. It's just kind of what I landed on. If you wanted to adjust this a little bit, you can certainly do that, but these are the numbers that are baked into this calculator. So for example, if I was to change this number to like $4,000, then you can see the percentages here are going to be pretty small. However, if I were to raise this up to like $50,000, you can see the percentage ranges are going to be higher. And if I went up to 100,000, then it's going to be even higher than that. And it pretty much maxes out at this range here. And the reason you're seeing three different numbers here is basically just that you have some options and a range of offers to choose from depending on your level of confidence and motivation to go after this deal. So if this is a deal that you're really confident about, and for whatever reason you have a high level of certainty that it's actually going to sell for a good price and sell quickly, then you could go with option C, which will simply increase the likelihood that they will accept your offer. However, if you're not really that excited about it, if you're not that confident or motivated to purchase, if you'd be perfectly happy just walking away from the deal if you had to, then obviously stick with A. And also keep in mind, if you want to, you can enter your own custom number. And if you do pick option D, that's basically going to clear out all these numbers so that they're not being factored into this total cash outlay over here. And instead, you would have to go on to the next line and manually type in whatever your number is going to be. And it's very important you understand that and don't inadvertently fill out both this one and accidentally keep one of these checked, because then it's going to add both of these together and put them over there, and it'll just kind of mess everything up. So just keep in mind, if you are going to do a custom number, be sure you're selecting item D, and then fill this out here. And if you're not doing a custom number, make sure you leave this as 0 and then select whichever one of these you want to go with. And it works the exact same way down here when it comes to the sale price, which we'll get to in just a second. And there are some cases where I don't pay attention to this. Say, for example, if I just flat out don't have the money to offer $20,000 on a property, but I do have, say, $10,000 and I still want to make an offer, I can do that. It's just that the likelihood of that getting accepted is going to be even lower. But there's obviously nothing wrong with you extending the offer if you want to. So I could just pick one of these numbers and go with that, and then it would start filling this stuff out over to the right. Or I could select D and then go down here and fill out my own custom number, say 10,000 in this case. And then down here I would enter in whatever closing costs I'm planning to pay when I buy it. So say if I was going through a pretty reasonably priced title company, I might put $500 in here. For holding and improvement costs, with most vacant lots, there's not a whole lot to be put in here, but say if you were planning to own it for a full year, worst case scenario, and you had to pay all the taxes that went along with that, then you might put whatever that tax bill happens to be in here as well. So just to pick an arbitrary number, I'll put another $500 in here as well, and then also whatever closing costs you would be paying on the sell side. So we'll put that in there too. And obviously, if you were going to self-close or if you were going to make the buyer pay for these closing costs, that would change to whatever your situation is. Again, this is just an example. And then over here on the sale price side, so this is like standard numbers that are always in here as suggestions. You could list the property at either 40% of market value, 60%, or 80%. And again, just like this one up here, you don't have to go with these numbers. It's just kind of a suggestion. So in this case, I'll go with, I don't know, option B. I'll just assume I'll be able to sell it for 60% of market value. And if I don't think that's reasonable, I can check option D here and put in my own custom number there too. Let's just say I'm only able to sell it for $30,000. And then what you'll see over here is just a really quick summary of what your total cash investment is going to be. In this case, it's going to cost us $11,500 all in, and that's basically just tallying these numbers up right here. And then the net profit, assuming you'll actually be able to sell it for this, would be $18,500, and the return on investment would be 160.87%. Now, in my opinion, those numbers look pretty solid. I would definitely pursue a deal if it looked like this. However, if you were going through this process and if the numbers looked way worse than that, say, for example, if you were only going to sell it for $15,000 and your return on investment is a lot lower and your net profit is a lot lower, in that case, it's kind of up to you as to whether or not you'd still want to pursue it. And just speaking for myself, pretty much across the board, I don't ever want to see a return on investment that's less than 100%. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad deal if it's less than 100%, but just when I think about what my time is worth and what I want to be spending my time on, I want to be getting a pretty decent bang for my buck, whether it's a cheap or a high-end deal. So that's kind of something I'm always looking for. And it's also worth noting that that return on investment number, while that's important, it's not the only thing to pay attention to. You also want to pay attention to what your net profit is. Say if you were going after a property and you were investing, I don't know, $30,000, and then you were going to sell it for $50,000, you can see that the return on investment is certainly under 100%, but the net profit's pretty big. I mean, that would be a pretty nice paycheck to get, even though your ROI is under 100%. So that's just something to keep in mind too, is whatever this net profit is. And then also, how much of your cash reserves it's going to be tying up. If this is the kind of deal that would consume all of the cash you have available, or more than all the cash you have, and that's definitely what I would consider putting all your eggs in one basket. Like, this deal had better work out. But on the other hand, say if this is just like a really small piece of the overall cash you have available, then it could totally be worth tying up $31,500 because you still have a lot of other funds available to work with. So it's just another one of those things you have to weigh into the overall equation. And based on your situation, if you ever don't like what these numbers are saying, all you got to do is go over here and start changing up the numbers. Say if you don't like what that net profit number is, or if you don't like what your return on investment is going to be, well, then that just tells you, okay, I either need to offer less in order to bring that number up, or I need to make sure this thing is going to sell for more, or some combination of the two. And obviously, as with any calculator like this, the quality of your inputs has everything to do with the quality of your outputs. If you put a number up here that's like just completely wrong, like then way higher than reality, then that's totally going to screw up the suggestions that it gives you, and it could like totally mess up your results in the end. So it's pretty important, if you're actually going to pay any attention to these suggested numbers here, that you've really taken the time to at least get a accurate ballpark idea of what the market value is on the property. So that's just a quick overview of how to use this calculator. I'll also say we do have a simpler version of this on the RE Tipster blog, and it's essentially the same thing, although it doesn't give you these suggested numbers. It just gives you a slider and you can pick whatever it is you want it to be. So if you find this one more helpful, then absolutely have at it. I'll have a link to this calculator on this page as well, in case you want to check that one out instead. If I were to put this number in here, doesn't really give me any suggestions. It has 10% by default and a sale price of 50% by default. But as you know, depending on the market value, that may or may not really be an appropriate place to start. So you can move it up if you want. You can move it down if you want. It's kind of up to you. and then you can go ahead and put those closing costs in there as well. So if you find that one more helpful or simpler to use, instead of seeing these suggested numbers based on what you put in there as the market value, then obviously feel free to use that too. And either way, I hope you find that really helpful. Thanks for checking the video out, and I wish you all the best on your next offer. Hey guys, how's it going? This is Seth from RE Tipster, and in this video I wanted to show you a few cool little hacks that I've been using when I'm trying to send somebody an offer to buy their property. And usually that offer is going to be very, very low, like way beneath market value. And I'm able to do this pretty much on autopilot for the most part. So just to give you a quick backstory, so when I first got into real estate investing, something that I used to do was I used to send out mail to a bunch of very specific property owners, asking them to call me and then leave me a voicemail so I could then call them back, and we'd go back and forth. Then I'd send them an offer, and lo and behold, many of them would say no to my offer. So it didn't take me long to realize this was a huge waste of time, because not only did I have to have these phone conversations with people and hear their life story, but then also, when I would send them the offer, the vast majority of these people were just going to say no or ghost me anyway. So I knew there had to be a more efficient way to zero in only on the people who would say yes without wasting tons and tons of my time with a bunch of people who were just going to say no. So the next iteration of how I did this was I created a buying website. And this is something I've talked about at great length on the blog and in the RE Tipster Club. It's basically just a pretty simple website where people can visit it, find out just a little bit of basic information about what I do as a real estate investor, and then they can submit their property information on my website so that all that information shows up in my email inbox, kind of like you see right here on the screen. And the reason this is so helpful is because it sort of got rid of this whole process where I had to have a phone conversation with them in order to move on to the next step. Instead, I can spend 0 seconds of my time and they can give me all the same information through my website. It just shows up in my inbox and I can then respond to them. So for a couple years then, I would get these emails like what you see right here on the screen, and I would go down here, I would reply to them. And whenever I would send these email offers, this was not a legally binding contract by any stretch. Literally, all I'm doing is I'm taking a look at this number that they submitted up here where they said what they thought the market value was of the property. And then my offer would be a small fraction of that, usually like 10 to 15% of whatever that number was. Because at this point, I'm not really concerned with whether or not that's even accurate. What I'm trying to find out is, how motivated is this person really? Like, are they really consciously willing to accept a cash offer amount that is way beneath what they think its market value is? And when I would reply to them, I'd type out a nice email saying, hey, so-and-so, thanks for submitting your property information. Would you consider selling this property for X amount cash? We can pay for any and all closing costs, blah, 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 blah. The problem with that was, it took me a few minutes to do that, and I'd have to sort of rethink through my message every single time. And that was fine. That was definitely way, way, way faster than the way that I used to do it. But the problem was, it still took me a few minutes to type out that message and rethink through it every single time, what I wanted to say and all that. Eventually, I discovered this awesome tool called Text Expander. And I'm actually going to include an affiliate link to Text Expander beneath this video. You can get 20% off if you sign up through this link. So just keep that in mind. But what Text Expander does is it allows you to write pretty much anything you want and then save it so that you can recall that message or whatever that text is simply by typing out what they call a snippet. So I'm going to show you just an example of how this works. So whenever I want to use Text Expander, instead of having to rethink through my offer email every single time I send it, all I have to do is type out the snippet. I type out X offer. That's just kind of a random thing I thought of. And it populates this message where, it has pretty much the entire email right there. All I have to do is type in that person's name. So I'll just call it Frank in this case. And then the exact amount that I want to offer in cash. So I could say $5,000. And then it's going to fill in that entire email for me, and I can just go ahead and click send, and it's done. So it saves me even more time. So it literally can just take me a maximum of 5 to 10 seconds tops to send these kinds of emails. So obviously that's pretty awesome, and anybody can use this no matter what kind of website they're running or what kind of email client they're using. You can save these kind of pre-written messages and just recall them whenever the situation arises where you need it. So that's another quick tip for you. However, things have evolved even further, and now I'm using a WordPress theme for my buying website called REI Land Leads. And it's definitely not the cheapest WordPress theme out there, but there's a number of reasons why it's really, really handy in how it works. So I'm just going to open up the demo site here. So first of all, it uses a two-step submission form. So instead of just overwhelming the visitor with one massive submission form right when they land on your website, it kind of coaxes them along. So they can start by just filling out their basic details here and then click get your cash offer, and then it's going to bring them to the actual full submission form where it's going to pre-fill in the stuff they answered here, and then they can answer the rest of the questions. And once they get to that page, it looks like this. So as you can see, it's obviously a lot longer, but they can really answer all the questions right here. And the cool thing about this is that once a person fills out all this information and submits it to you, first of all, you actually get all that information in your inbox. But something else you're able to do is use this free plugin that you can get only if you're using this theme. The plugin is called the Automated Offer plugin. And the way it works is it'll put together this pre-written email. So this email can say literally whatever you want it to. This is just the language that I chose for mine. And what it's going to do is after a person submits all this stuff to you and you get all that information in your inbox, it's going to wait for a set amount of time, and you can actually say however long you want it to be. In my case, I have it waiting for 60 minutes, and it's going to automatically send them an offer email. So I don't even have to pay attention. It's just going to be sending out offers to literally every single person who submits their information through my buying website. And the way that that offer is calculated is it's going to take that estimated market value, if you remember back over here, this field right here. So it's going to take whatever number they put in there, and it's going to multiply that number by whatever percentage you set. So currently, I have it sending out offers that are 9% of whatever they put in here. So if somebody puts in, my property is worth $100,000, I'm automatically going to be sending out an offer for $9,000. And when I first heard about this, I was like, first of all, that's amazing. But another part of me was like, I don't know if I necessarily want to be sending out offers to literally every single person who makes a submission on my site just because they made a submission. There are some properties I don't really want to send an offer to. And I will say that's actually one of the suggestions that I have into the creators here of REI Land Leads is to give us some kind of functionality that will allow us to just say, no, don't send an offer. Say, if I know I'm never going to want to send offers to properties that are worth less than $1,000 or more than $1 million, just as an example, then it would be really great to have the ability to specify that right here in this plugin. So as of the time of this recording, that functionality is not available. But in the meantime, just be aware of the fact that, first of all, you don't have to use this plugin. You can totally turn it off so that it's not sending out automated offers. And even if you do want to send automated offers to everybody, say if you send an offer to somebody that you don't really want their property and they say yes, it's very, very easy to just say, nope, sorry, no thanks. We don't actually want to do this because we researched this other stuff and found this, or, fill in the blank with whatever reason you want. Because remember, you don't have to commit to anything in this offer email. It's just an inquiry to see what their actual level of motivation is. And just to show you what these emails look like, and just to offer you proof that like this actually works because it's been working for me, I'm going to show you some examples of what these emails look like and what the results of them look like. So if we go over here to my inbox, just right here, for example, when you see this email here that says, new property lead submission, step 1 completed, step 2 completed. Step 1 is this initial form that they filled out. And then step 2 is when the person goes through this full form and submits everything. Sometimes, not surprisingly, you'll find that a person only submits step 1, and then once they see step 2, they just leave and don't do that. So that's going to happen from time to time, but whatever they do fill out, you're always going to get that information. So say if somebody did just fill out step 1, you would have their name, their email address, their property state, and the property's county, which is not a ton of information to work with, but you could at least send them an email and follow up if you wanted to. And when they fill out step 2, then you're going to have all the information right there. So it's pretty helpful to have whether or not you have that automated offer plugin turned on. And just to give you a couple examples of how people respond, if they respond at all to these automated offers, I'll show you some where people said no and some where people said yes. So here's one example where somebody just responded and said insulting. So in other words, I guess we can assume the answer is no. And you can kind of see what my email looks like to them that it just sent automatically. And one other little minor quirk I've noticed with this plugin, again, as of the time of this recording, when it sends out that offer amount, it currently does not have a comma in the number itself. So I found some people have actually gotten confused because that comma isn't there. Like they're wondering, hey, is this a typo or is that actually the number you meant to send? And I think if a comma was there, it would just make it a little bit clear that like, no, this is not a typo. Yes, that is the actual offer amount. So a couple people, but not everybody has been confused by that. So just to give you some other examples of people who said yes. So this is one person who said, thanks for your reply. I'm glad you're interested in my property. Are you able to stay around $7,500 USD? As you can see, my original offer was $6,500. And keep in mind, the percentage that I have mine set on, it's not just low, it's like absurdly low. And part of the reason I have it so absurdly low is because, first of all, I'm just like super cautious with pretty much any deal I pursue. Like the number has to be amazing or I'm not even going to consider it. But also, I'm recognizing the fact that a lot of these people who submit their property information are probably going to be overpricing their market value, like not in my favor. So this is just going to give me an extra hedge of protection just by making the assumption that they're probably inflating that value when they send it to me. Again, I don't know that everybody's going to do that, but if they do, it's okay, because my offer is, again, absurdly low. So that's one example. And then also here's another one where somebody just said, I accept your offer. So my due diligence process doesn't even start until somebody responds saying, yes, I will accept your offer. I don't have to waste any of my time trying to figure out what type of property this is, how big it is, whether or not it fits my criteria, because it's going to send out these offers to everybody. And a lot of them are going to say no or not respond. And I don't want to have to spend my time doing anything until I know I have a seriously motivated seller on the line. And once I start digging into this, I may very well find that the property is not at all what I want to buy, or maybe this person completely misrepresented the facts, or for one reason or another, it's just not the kind of deal that fits our investment criteria. So you totally want to do that research, but you don't want to spend your valuable time doing that until you know you have a serious seller on the line. And this is just a perfect example how you can automate things in your business so that you're not wasting time just spinning your wheels, getting nowhere on the things that really don't matter. Because it really doesn't matter until you know you have a real deal. So if you really want to level up the automation in your real estate investing business, again, REI Land Leads, this is one of several themes offered by REI Conversion, and I've actually been an advisor for this company for a while, and a lot of the stuff they offer on their themes, including this kind of automated offer plugin, is a direct result of things that I have suggested to them. So you're welcome, and if you want to use it, I hope you find it super helpful. Even if you don't want to go this route, though, something like Text Expander alone can also save you a ton of time. It's not going to completely automate things,
but it will definitely cut down on waste in your process as you're looking at submissions on your buying website, assuming you have one, which I think you should, by the way. Whatever your situation is, I hope you found something helpful in this video. The stuff that I just told you about literally took me years and years and years to figure out and refine on my own. So hopefully this can keep you from wasting years and years in your own business as you're trying to find great real estate deals out there. So thanks for watching. Hope you find it helpful, and I'll talk to you next time.